Yo, what up guys, it's your boy Kimbo here. Now before this video starts, I did go into detail about the history of Beyblade Burst for anybody who doesn't know. So that takes up about the first 17 minutes of this video. I know it's a kind of longer one, but wanted to state everything so it's not just oh, hey, this idea is coming out of the blue. Why do you think that? So fully explaining the history of Burst and then getting into it. So if you want to just get into the whole speculation stuff, fast forward to 17 minutes. If not, then enjoy the video. And also the history of things. But yeah, enjoy. And also, this is speculation. Things haven't been fully confirmed or anything, but just the possibility of these things happening isn't out of the blue. So if they do happen, it will be absolutely amazing. If not, so be it. Honestly, sad face a little bit, but hopefully some of this stuff does. But anyways, let's get into it. Yo, what's going on guys? It's your boy Kimbo here and it's time for an epic video. Now before this starts, I just want to start things off by saying thanks so much to everybody that told me, happy birthday and such and wished well for my birthday. It means the absolute world, and it was honestly one of the best birthdays I probably had in say the better part of the last few years. Yeah, it was really awesome, and all the outreaching and support and everything, especially even on that video, y'all are the absolute best. Whether it was family or friends or all of you guys being my fam, reaching out and just wishing well means the absolute world, man. So thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart. Going into 25 and just hoping for the best, man. So yeah, just wanted to start things off with that. And without further ado, let's get into this. So of course it's discussion time, dude, but we're getting all out into the discussion of just why this season is going to be so crazy. I know I made videos like this before, but I'm just putting it all together with this video, especially with the most recent events, even with the show. We're just going to go all into it. So, obviously, the history of Beyblade Burst coming out in 2015 when we had the single layer bays. That's when they first introduced it and such. And then we would go on to see the series, the first season in 2016. Then we saw God and Evolution in 2017. Well, not Evolution, but God, we saw in 2017. 2018, we got Cho-Z. Last year, 2019, we got GT. And then this year, 2020, us getting Superking, historic 5th season for a Beyblade series, which we've never gotten this far with a series. Classic Gen was 3 seasons. The Metal Gen MFB was 4 seasons. And then with Burst being 5 seasons. So honestly, with that pattern even, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the last season. Not saying it to be, that guy or anything, or make people sad. Saying it to be realistic, because you guys know I'm a realist with things, and just seeing all the data and such that supports these things, especially with the end game level feel that we're getting with this season. This could possibly be the very last season of Burst, which would be a very sad thing, but we got to enjoy it, and things are going to get way more devastating with this than honestly I think any of us fully realizes or comprehends right now, even myself being included with that. So, throughout the history of Beyblade Burst, we've seen some pretty crazy things happen. I mean, the first season was more the feel-good season and such, where we got all the characters introduced, and then we had the main beat, that being Louis coming in at the very end, Shinosakajo Louis being the champion in Japan for the better part of the last, 5 years at that point, or 4 years, he had won, and then Blader stepping up to face him, get payback on him, that being obviously Shu being the main one set up for that, and then getting really close in his battle. But then obviously Shu and Wakia being 2 Bladers that faced off beforehand. Spriggan got damaged in that battle between those two. That's how Spriggan got damaged in the first season. And then facing off against Louis, Spriggan couldn't take that power. And because Spriggan couldn't take that power, honestly, power-wise, they were pretty much even. But Spriggan had been damaged, and because of that, Storm Spriggan did break in the middle of the battle, giving the win to Longinus. Because if it would have came down to the stamina, Spriggan would have won the last battle, but it did burst and break because of all the recoil and all that tension from all those battles. And then Louis ended up winning it. And then obviously the final battle being between Louis and Vault, it being very close as well, both getting burst on one another and crazy hits, and then it coming down to one little miscalculation by Vault, that being him using his full power, trying to at the end to finish off Longinus, hits a crack in the stadium, and Valkyrie bursts off that crack, and because of that, Louis does win it, Longinus does win it, and that's honestly one of the first times where we've seen it where the main character of a series does not win the big one at the end of the series. It actually went to Louis. So Yeah, man, that was honestly a really, really crazy swerve even then that TT did, because none of us were expecting it. We all thought Vault was going to win. Louis ended up winning it. Then fast forward to the second season, obviously Vault going off to BC Seoul, meeting Cisco, Free, all these bladers and such, and then all getting stronger throughout the duration of the series. Shu goes missing at a point, and then we have Red Eye show up saying that he's not Shu. And, you know, the quote unquote video where I said Red Eye is not Shu, where obviously it's like we figure out later on in the series after he faces Louis with Nightmare Longinus and Legend Spriggan loses and his mask breaks that he is Shu. But again, metaphorically speaking, like mentally speaking, it's Shu physically, but mentally he's not the same. He got changed when he became Red Eye and put that mask on. A man named Ashton, well, actually his technical name was Theodore, being behind that. He was leader of a group called the Snake Pit. The Snake Pit basically created very, very strong bladers, very powerful bladers, in order to, like, you know, go up and show their true power and have the Snake Pit kind of rule. That mainly being Ashton's main goal with things. And then after Red Eye had lost with Legend Spriggan, and it was revealed that he was Shu, and then Louis made fun of him. Shu sat there and he just thought about this entire experience, how he faced off against Free the first time, and when he had Legend Spriggan, he got oofed by Fafnir the first time they faced off when he went to the Bulls. And it's kind of honestly poetic justice just looking at it now, even because Shu got oofed then, but then he went in the Requiem Project in the Snake Pit. Ashton Theodore put all his eggs in one basket, and then the Requiem Project making Shu fully Red Eye, even unmasked, and Spriggan taking control of him, that being with his newest base, Spriggan Requiem. Then the God Bladers Cup happens, all these powerful bladers throughout, you know, the duration of this series coming together, battling in this huge tournament, Blocks A and Blocks B, as well as a blader from the underground being Kurt, who was a former champion. He was a former champion, but then nobody actually stood up to his power. He went back into the underworld, basically this underground sewage area of the world where he would battle and such. And he wasn't seen again since then. But then he comes back for this as well, as all these bladers from all these different teams across the world, as well as like the Snake Pit and also Kurt from the underworld coming up. And they all battle in this tournament. We all know the history of it, all these battles happening. And then throughout the duration of it, things getting more and more crazy, because Shu, when he was Red Eye, was going on tears and just demolishing everybody, beating all of them in battles. Then he started getting his resonance to flare a bit, and it led to him being so strong that he started breaking bays. Even fellow teammates' bays in the Snake Pit, that being the biggest case, Norman Tarver, his nemesis, getting broken, leading to basically the final battle. He also broke Longinus. He did break Longinus in this as well. And that's like the man to beat from the very first season, getting his bay destroyed in the second by his rival, who is now kind of brainwashed by his more powerful bay and his more evil bay. Shu was basically brainwashed at this point, you know, Red Eye. That's why it was Red Eye and not Shu, because it wasn't how normal Shu would act. And then it leading to the final battle, Vault working his way up. He was seen as the underdog from the get-go, and then just starts beating some of the most powerful bladers, including Kurt. And then we get to the top four, and he faces off against Free. Vault beats Free, but he beats him because of Free getting injured in the middle of it. So it kind of protected Free, since he didn't lose in like an actual like burst fashion, and he's still a credible blader and such, but he lost because he couldn't handle the power and he actually got injured. So Vault moved on to the final battle. Then Vault versus Shu, aka Red Eye at this point. Vault versus Red Eye. Vault takes the win in a very intense battle when there was so many ties, so many draws, so many double burst finishes. And then at the very end of it, Vault wins. And when he beats Spriggan Requiem, Shu is freed from the control of Spriggan. He gets freed. Shu starts to realize the errors of his ways and such now that he's not completely overtaken by Spriggan, because it was given that Spriggan was taking over his demeanor big time and corrupting his vision. And at the end of that, this man, Ashton or Theodore, drives off in a car, in a limo, and says, "You and Vault win this time." Him speaking to Chris, the manager of BC Seoul, the team that Vault, Free, Cisco, all of them are on. That's how that ends. And then even in the middle of that season, Free had left the Bulls because Free lost, and then he went to train with the Bulls. And then after he had lost, he left the Bulls. And at that point, Ashton or Theodore had even said, "I'm not finished with you yet," to him. Ashton/Theodore was the manager of the New York Bulls. We all know this. He was the manager of the New York Bulls, but also he was secretly Ashton, the manager of the Snake Pit, the leader of the Snake Pit. So he played double duty. After that, he had left the Bulls. This leading into season 3. As it goes along, we obviously get introduced to Iga. We're in Cho-Z territory now. Get introduced to Iga, all of his friends and such. We meet Ranjiro, Rantaro's little brother. Get development with him from Buki, Suo, etc., all these characters, you know. And then in the middle of the season, we have this battleship cruise. By this point, Iga's gotten very, very powerful. And then we have this battleship cruise. And on this cruise, we meet Phi, who has revived Phoenix. Supposed to be a bae that was created from a meteor. And Phi just being extremely powerful, him never losing any battles power-wise in the middle of the season. Then as the season goes along, he starts corrupting Iga with his resonance. Iga beats Vault to become the champion. We see Valkyrie get broken in the middle of it. Winning Valkyrie gets broken, but that leads to Cho-Z Valkyrie. Then Iga's the champion, but he's also got his corrupted power. He actually beats Phi during this time period too, probably because Phoenix just didn't have as much of a crazy resonance as Achilles did at that point. Then after that, we had it where Hearts gets introduced, Hearts being Phi's little brother, coming in and beating Iga to become the champion. He has the man to beat role at this point, and this is where things get big time swerved. One, because Iga wasn't expected to beat Vault. We all thought that Vault was gonna beat Iga, but then Iga won and broke Valkyrie at the same time. Another example of a big swerve. The Spriggan Requiem project, before things got leaked, also being another big time swerve that happened with the series, you know, during Evolution. And then Hearts being the champion at this point, also being a pretty big swerve. And then Iga trying to get his rematch, still losing, going and trying to get stronger and get more powerful. And then Vault coming in with Cho-Z Valkyrie, regaining his title. And then Iga getting shook. But then at the same time, Phi facing off against Iga. We see Iga's Achilles get broken by Phoenix, which leads to Cho-Z Achilles. That's both protagonists getting their bays broken. And then Phi also going after Hearts because he wanted dead Hades from the very beginning. But then he's like, no, I'm not going to give it back, like since they were kids. And then he forces Hearts to kneel at his feet, his own brother, by breaking Hades. He broke his own brother's bay and merged it with Phoenix. Then we got Dead Phoenix. Then we get the crazy Lord of Destruction, God of Destruction, Dead Phoenix arc. That being anybody who faces off against Phi at this point, if they lose, they're going to get wrecked. And then the first victim being Free. Free De La Hoya, obviously with his Geist Fafnir that got introduced during this particular season. Free's very powerful. We all know it. But then these two powerhouses facing off and literally Phi breaking Fafnir. We see Fafnir not only get bursted. We saw Fafnir get bursted with Cho-Z Valkyrie. That's the first time we had seen it get bursted against another bae. And it showed how strong Valkyrie was. But seeing it get destroyed by Phoenix, to me, was definitely devastating. And then after that battle happened, then we got a setup with Shu. And then Shu comes in and he has his Cho-Z Spriggan. This is the former Red Eye with his new bae that's extremely powerful that only Vault's defeated. And then Phi comes in and destroys Cho-Z Spriggan. We saw it. Craziness. And then Iga steps up and Iga manages to beat Phi. It's only based off a burst, and then he managed to burst Phoenix at the very, very end of this. So Iga was the only one that Phi had beaten during this entire season. Then we got the final battle, that being Vault versus Iga. Iga became the champion because he managed to beat Vault. Some people were happy about it, but it's just the fact that he beat him and he became the champion. Leading us into GT, we get the introduction of Drum as well as Amane, everybody in Victories, Fumia, all these characters, we've seen them. Delta, we've seen them all throughout the duration of this. The GT3, as things go along, then we get to the Champions Tournament, kind of champion tournament, on the island, the island battle where everybody's trying to step up to face Iga, and then Amane steps up to face him, loses to Iga. Drum manages to face off against Iga, actually bursts Achilles in one of the battles, but then gets beat by Iga. And then we got Drum Iga versus Delta, because Delta's the very last one to step up. At this point, we knew Delta's resonance was kind of crazy, and that he was he was going to probably break Achilles. But then, big curveball in the middle of the battle, Arthur Percival or Peregrine, whatever you want to call him, Hasbro, Takara Tomy, whatever, launches him in his Apocalypse, bursts both bays, and shows off his power, then faces Iga in a 1v1 and beats the WBBA champion. How's a different organization that's meant to combat the WBBA? Beats him. And then after this, we have the battle between Delta and Drum against Arthur. Delta and Drum versus Arthur, not really working together. Drum trying to work with Delta. But then Diabolos gets bursted. Dragon gets destroyed. So that's the third, keeping up with the pattern. The protagonist, third one, Bay gets broken, leading him to get Imperial Dragon, and then he wants payback against Arthur. Delta swoops in, Diabolos gets broken by Apocalypse, and then Delta gets heartbroken. He goes and makes Master Diabolos, but during this time period, Drum beats Arthur with his Apocalypse, with his Imperial Dragon, then kind of gets kind of a man to beat role because of that. But then we have Gwyn come in with his Regalia Genesis, beats everybody in 1v1s, tries to break Dragon. He starts to get his corrupted resonance and such because he's a Genius Blader and has his new Bay, but then his resonance kind of gets corrupted towards the end. Then he gets Big Bang Genesis at that point, and then after getting Big Bang Genesis, meets up with Arthur, gives him the Big Bang armor for Apocalypse. We get the armored Apocalypse, and then we get the big 3 versus 3 battle at the end of the season, which is a big time struggle for Victories, but Victories at the very end ends up winning this battle, leading to them kind of getting the man to beat role, at least in my eyes. And then we get to this point now, Superking Sparking. With all these events happening, I know it took a little bit to get all that out, but just refreshing everybody on the history of Beyblade, not gonna lie about it or anything, saying the absolute facts of everything that happened, even all the swerves, like Arthur coming in, being yet another swerve in this story. And then Gwyn evolving Regalia Genesis and the Big Bang Genesis before we found out things. That was honestly kind of a swerve, because Gwyn had never lost at that point, and then evolved his Bay. When he didn't need to, when he never lost. But then at the very end of the season, with the combined power of Victories, loses. But it's the combined power of Victories. Also, Delta with Master Diabolos. Master Diabolos never lost in a 1v1. I'm not talking team battles or anything, because during the team battle, he lost one time. But in 1v1 against any other Blader with Master Diabolos, he never lost. That includes Drum. Who won at the very end of the season. So, yeah. Now it leads us to Superking, all the things we've seen with this. A lot of the Bladers becoming legends at this point. There being big-time ranks, the S rank being the very, very top. Then we get Hikaru and Hyuga introduced with this season, as well as Lane being introduced with this season. And now we get the segue into really the big-time discussion for this video. I had to go back in the history of Beyblade Burst and say everything that was just crazy, all these big time events that are happening, because it proves the points of what I'm about to say right now. Let's get into this, dude. So, Superking. This is why this season is going to be that much more devastating. The whole history has been written and put out there, and especially because I just explained it right now. We obviously have Lane being this genius blader who came in New York. Shu coached him, saw him battle, and literally he had the Bay first Uranus during this time period. He had never lost with first Uranus in all these battles, which we got the segue to him facing off against Free. Shu coached this battle, and we saw it. They didn't show actually physically Geist Fafnir, probably because it's an older Bay by this point of this happening, and they just don't want to show it off because we had seen Wizard before, and they showed off Mirage after. This battle is the whole reason why Free made Mirage Fafnir, to go and face Lane again and beat him. That is the big time sole reason that he made it, to get more power and to be able to go and beat Lane the next time. During this battle with First Uranus and Geist Fafnir, both Shu and Free were so shocked when they saw that battle, when it happened. Free looked heartbroken. It wasn't only a loss, it got bursted. It was it got broken. Lane's First Uranus shattered Geist Fafnir. And then he's That's why Free always focuses so much on Lane, leading to him actually making Lucifer. Shu catches Lane working on his new Bay. He's like, I need a more frightening Bay, and makes variant Lucifer. That's another case, just like Gwen, a blader who never lost a single battle, including against the great Free de la Hoya, evolving his Bay to an even crazier level. So Free obviously made Mirage to get back and face him again, but Lane even upgrading his Bay. You see the parts of like the Gwen story with this, a genius blader who never lost but upgrades their Bay. You see kind of those characteristics with like the Gwen story before. And then we get further in this, and obviously leading up to the Legend Festival, besides like the battle with Louis and Lane, where he managed to burst Longinus, which shows his power because Louis is a top-ranked blader, and bursts his new Longinus, his Rage Longinus. And then after this, the next battle we see with Lane being against Ranjiro, and we know the story of that. Literally variant press, his newest move, and then clenches his fist and shatters Ragnarok. Him breaking base. The way that the resonance feels just like Red Eye Shu, as well as even the resonance that Arthur had, because he was just crazy powerful and devastating, and he would break bays as well, easily. And even with Fi, with how maniacal he is, even with the way he breaks bays. He pushed it against the wall until it shattered, man. That's one of the most devastating breaks I've seen throughout the entire duration of this series, and that's nuts. And we're at this level right now. After the battle with Louis and Lane, even before this happened with Ragnarok, Lane said, my flare is still growing. And when it reaches its peak, Shu, I'm going to throw it all at you. Lane trained with Shu and the Bulls, but Shu made it where Lane had to follow everything he said. He had to follow everything that he taught him and such, and he had to work the way that Shu, trained. And he couldn't, oppose it or anything, or he couldn't train with him. It was as simple as that. And you could tell Lane kind of got some animosity for Shu during that, because the battle with Louis, at the very end, he's like, I'm not going to meet with you until that happens. So he's not going to meet up with Shu. They set up for the battle with Shu and Lane. They got a battle set up for Free and Lane, which is going to be crazy and devastating as well. The way that plot works is they set up both of those battles to happen soon. That's going to happen in the series. It's going to be a later episode, but they're both going to happen. Now we're at the current point, the Legend Festival. With Ranjiro being out with injury, Hyuga getting put in, Hikaru being a part of it already, and then all these legendary bladers. So with this, the first battle, obviously Lane going in against all these legendary bladers, Drum, Cisco, Louis, and Hikaru, who could be seen on this level now because he's this powerful, probably just lowest rank, like how Hyuga's lowest rank. Lane with his Lucifer KOs all of them at one time. Absolutely crazy. KOs all of these legendary bladers and powerful bladers at one time with his Lucifer. All attacking 4 against 1. That's crazy, insane power. And Shu not being a part of this because he's watching on the TV at the current moment. Shu's not out of the picture. He's just watching on the TV at the Bulls location because he has to manage the Bulls. And they don't need him to come in right now because obviously World Spring doesn't come out till next month, and they're focusing on Achilles now. So actually segue into Achilles coming in. Aiga actually, his first battle technically was against Hikaru, and he won it. He managed to win it. But then in the actual big time battle, Hyuga actually won it. He still won his first battle, People might not consider like the Helios versus Achilles battle to be a battle, but it was a battle, and he won it. So TT stuck with the same pattern. A new blader coming in with a new bay usually won't lose. And even with this case, it was just really subtle, but he still didn't lose. And then leading to things now. So obviously in that big time battle royal, Hyuga barely winning it because his resonance started waking up, and also Lane's connection to Hyuga and Hyperion. Whenever Hyperion starts to resonate and Lane sees it, Lucifer resonates. It's kind of like the Aiga Phi type thing with this, which could bring up questions of, is Lane going to take control of Hyuga, or will Lane's resonance kind of corrupt Hyuga? That could be a big question because of the history that we've seen, how things were with Aiga and Phi. That's a big question. Will it happen? No clue. But who knows, man? Especially with like how they're paying homage to all these events happening before. Even the parts of the bays now, having some parts of the past, but also putting dashes on them now to make them stronger. Paying homage to all of these bladers that we've seen. Even with this battle now, the tag team battles were in the God Bladers Cup arena in the show. They're going back to this arena that we haven't seen since season 2 and doing battles in it. That pays big time homage even to those things. But with all this history, there might be some things from the past that could come back around and be a part of this present endgame feel. Because you got all these legendary bladers coming in with their ultimate bays, being at this ultimate rank and this ultimate level. But you got all these evils too that could have been sitting in the background, even during the whole duration of all these events happening throughout history, the history of Beyblade, and return soon. Because with Lane, we have no background of him. How did he get first Uranus? How does he have this crazy resonance? How is this kid so strong that he shows up in a tournament and whooped everybody, not only, but he beat Free De La Hoya with a mystery bay that we have no clue where it came from? It's almost as if somebody created that bay in the shadows. As if somebody has been sitting there waiting for this moment to go and perfect their system so that they can create a true blader that's so powerful that no other blader, even a legendary blader, can oppose him in a battle. Sounds like some Ashton Theodore stuff because he was never arrested and he drove off in a limo. It's not far-fetched to say if he comes back, I wouldn't be too shocked if they have it. We're at the end of this and they start really revealing how Lane got first Uranus. We know how he got Lucifer because he upgraded it. But how did he get first Uranus and even that flare to the point where he's getting more and more powerful as he battles? Like some Gwyn level stuff. How he's maniacal on the level of Phi, trying to break bays and such when he's in a 1v1 now, as shown by Ranjiro. Even Arthur, going in with that crazy power and just trying to make everybody bow before him. Not on a crazy scale yet, but soon could be on a crazy scale. You can imagine Evo, the dude that was behind Dead Phoenix being created. Yeah, Phi mixed the power of Hades and Phoenix together, but also Evo's the one that created the Bay. And he's also kind of emotionless. And if you don't have like that much emotion, it can make you honestly pretty evil and such. And it shows with even him. And Ashton Theodore, even at the end of the God Bladers Cup, he still sat there like he didn't lose. He's like, you and Vault win this time. He's like, I concede this time. But he says, you win this time, as if he's going to come back. As if he has bigger things planned. As if he's like, this is only the beginning, and I've learned a lot here. Just wait until you see me again. It's going to be on an absolutely devastating level to the point where none of you are going to be able to stop it. We could definitely get that with this. Look at how Lane's going on a tear right now in the Legend Festival. He's going to go on an even bigger tear. And honestly, this last battle with the team battle at the time of recording this video, the last battle that happened was a team battle on the day before my birthday, the 29th. When it was Hikaru and Aiga versus Lane and Hyuga. And Lane and Hyuga obviously not working together or anything. And it being down to Achilles and Lucifer being the last two because Hyperion and Helios both got knocked out. And they were done. Simultaneous KO. So it was down to the last two members. And Aiga, his headband actually breaks, and he manages to push Lucifer out of the stadium. And it's the first loss that we've really seen for Lane. Like, legit loss, like he lost. But it was that Lucifer hit the ground before Achilles hit the ground. Because Achilles, Infinite Achilles, being the newest Bay, which they still haven't revealed when they're going to put it out, being the winner with this, And now, Lane looks like he's targeting Aiga, because at the very end of the episode, his eyes light up purple, like how they lit up yellow when he broke Ragnarok. So he's aiming at Aiga. I hope that Aiga's not the next casualty with this, because it would be crazy and definitely devastating. But Lane's got his eyes on Aiga, and he's got his eyes on everybody in this tournament. So it wouldn't be far-fetched to say, what if at the end of this, Bladers are pushing Lane? They're pushing him to the point where the barrier is not working anymore. The variant wall won't work. Maybe in the variant wall press, They managed to get out of it. But then you have to deal with the actual power of Lucifer when you make full contact with it, when you get through that barrier. The question is, can any of the Bladers that remain do that? I definitely think so. I mean, I definitely see like who being the absolute strongest out of this. Honestly, the three protagonists, Vault, Iga, Drum, also Free being in that category, also Louis being in that category. Out of the Bladers that are currently in the show right now. And I say currently because they could bring in any characters they want to. They're not going to just stop and not put in other characters. I mean, we're 23 episodes in, or 24, somewhere like that. We're not even halfway through this season and they've introduced all these characters. And we all know from history, they're not only going to have the characters that are on the art for the season, the beginning art. We see all those characters on the front art for the season. And at this point, once Infinite Achilles and World Spriggan both come out, we're going to be in a dead period. We're not going to know who they're going to bring back. They can bring anybody they want to back with this. They can put in any bays they want to with this. With the history, we've seen like sets come out, like the triple booster set. We got another triple booster set for Superking. We've seen the transformation set where they always introduce 2 new bays that correspond to 2 Bladers coming back in the show. Deep Chaos and Arc of Bahamut being two of them from the God set. You know, that being Cleo and Boa. And then from the Cho-Z set, we got Orb Aegis and we got Cho-Z Spriggan. Cho-Z Spriggan obviously being Shu, Orb Aegis being Eval. Then the last one for the GT customized set where we got 4 bays, or the transformation set, whatever you want to call it. We got Regalia Genesis and Prime Apocalypse both introduced with that. Gwyn and Arthur, both with that. So if you connect the dots, and TT sticks with this pattern, which it seems like they're going to stick with this pattern, at the end of this year, we're going to be getting another transformation set with 4 bays in it. Probably 2 of them will be like with some parts that we don't have that much of, hopefully, and 2 of them being Bladers that they can put in this or reintroduce with this. What Bladers do you think they could bring back with this, honestly? We all know the history with Delta. He has full credibility to come back. Death and Abyss Diabolos we did get, and I know some people are obviously like, you know, we didn't see them in the show. They were only in the manga, but they were in the manga. They could do something where, like, you know, the manga, anybody doesn't know what the manga is. The manga is basically like the comic book version of, you know, not so much the show, but like, you know, the comic book version of Beyblade Burst Superking. Sometimes some things overlap. Other times some things happen that don't happen in the actual show. And it shows. Some characters will come in the show that never existed in the manga, or vice versa and such, you know? Or that, like, don't show up in the show, but are in the manga. You know what I mean? Like, in this case, Wakia, Dinah being 2 of them. Also Zack, Jaka, Phi, Gwyn, Delta at this current moment, all of them being in the top 15 rank, but not being in the show. They could bring back any of those characters they want to, and it would make full sense if they do. Phi, Gwyn, and Delta, I think, are the top 3 that they absolutely cannot skip over in this season, because if it's endgame feel and you want to have the very strongest, it would make no sense and won't make your evil look that much credible if you don't have these powerful Bladers that have hardly lost come back for this. You know what I mean? So that being like Phi, Gwyn, and Delta, and Death and Abyss Diabolos felt like placeholders, like kind of like the GT versions of Venom and Erase, but we don't have a bay that really feels like Master. You know, Master Diabolos feels like Delta, like it's obviously Delta's latest bay, and it doesn't feel like we got a bay that's quite like that. And World Spriggan has the gimmick that Master Diabolos did, flipping over the base where it switches and such, and that switches up the chemistry and the overall performance of the bay. We're getting that with World Spriggan. You think it's far-fetched to say we can get another Diabolos? They could do it by having, you know, in the show, like in the manga, Delta does have Death and Abyss, but imagine they get broken. They get broken in the manga, but then he goes and creates a new Diabolos. That's how they can introduce him into the actual show. Because like I said, Phi, Gwyn, and Delta would make no sense if they leave them out. Gwyn only lost to Drum in the final battle, using all the power of victories. It wasn't only the power of Drum's dragon, but literally all victories. Drum, Delta, and Amane, all their power put together. Phi only lost to Iga. Literally nobody else beat Phi. Like, power-wise, nobody else beat him. Iga's the only one that did. And we never got that battle between Phi and Vault. Which, what? How are you going to hype that up big time during the season and not have it happen? Unless they're waiting to have it happen. And not on maybe a Crazy World Destructive scale. Maybe like, coming back in. Just because, like, the way that things ended for Phi, he doesn't seem like an evil character. Same thing for Delta. Same thing for Gwen. They can all come in like anti-heroes, like kind of badass characters that, aren't full like, oh, yay, like, we're here to help you or anything. But, like, at a beck and call, when things get serious, they enter in. Kind of like how Ryuga was during Metal Masters, And he came in and helped Jinga and Masamune out at the very end of, the Beyblade World Championship in Gang Gang Galaxy 1 with the help of Ryuga, honestly. Kind of that level these three can honestly be at. And even other characters they could bring back. I hope they bring back like Zack or Xhaka, because if they bring those two back, you got all the Supreme Four in this season that pays homage to Season 1. Hopefully they can bring back, like, especially, I know people want to see it, Wakia, Dyna, Kensuke, those three, because you have the original Baygoma Academy Bay Club with this. It'll be cool to see them come back. Will they? No clue. Hopefully, but that would be awesome homage as well. Just this being the 5th season, it feels like the last one, and because of that, they need to really tie things together. Now, this is where things get absolutely devastating. Like I said, Blader's forcing Lane to use his full power. By the end of this, we're going to see some crazy battles. It's going to be like basically 2 Bladers from each group, I believe, going to be facing off in a 1v1 battle. And the battles that we really got to see, honestly, well, we got to see Lane versus Louis again, like full power, because it seemed like Louis wasn't using his full power during that battle when he lost to Lane. He was kind of underestimating him, and Lane beat him because Lane wasn't playing any games. So possibly a rematch with that. But one of the ones we definitely have to see with this season is Free versus Lane. We got to see that battle. Free versus Lane 2. Except now it's not Geist Fafnir versus First Uranus, or First Uranus versus Geist Fafnir. It's Mirage Fafnir versus Variant Lucifer. Those two using full power, dude. Imagine it. And as much as I don't want to see it, it could be very devastating, once again, for our boy Free. Because, like I said, I love Free. He's my dude. But the way they set it up, even with this, imagine they have it where he loses again and then he just loses it completely because his whole focus was to go and beat Lane with, beat Lane with his new Fafnir. And then he loses again. You know what that would do to Free, man? It would honestly be like a Conzern, Julian Conzern to Damien level of, like, dang. You guys know what I mean. If you're a big-time MFB fan, you know what I mean when I say that statement. If you haven't seen Julian versus Damien MFB, go check it out. It's devastating. It could be that level even again. And then even the setup versus Shu. Lane versus Shu. Got to see that battle. Because Lane's aura is still growing, and he said so himself. So it could be that things get absolutely devastating during this festival, and it forces Shu's hand. With Spriggan coming out next month, well, now, probably by the time it'll be like this month, because it'll probably be September, maybe by the time some people see this, it'll force Shu's hand soon, with all this going on. It'll force him to come back, and then that's how we get the introduction of World Spriggan. Because TT putting it off because Shu's the #1 loved character in Japan, and everybody loves Spriggan, and they've just been hyping it up big time. That's why they had Shu show up in the show, but he hasn't used Spriggan yet, and we're going to get it this next month. And I wouldn't be surprised if they threw a swerve and they're like, oh yeah, Achilles too, because we've shown it off in the show. But yeah, I personally want to see Achilles in a booster. I don't want to see it in like the random booster, because especially all the different modes and such for it, that would honestly stink. I'm hoping they're just going to pull a swerve and be like, yeah, we're going to release it with World Spriggan, or like, when World Spriggan releases, we're going to drop Infinite Achilles as well. That would be a cool swerve. But if they are saving it for the booster, so be it. But, time's going to tell. Anyways, you don't think all these battles are going to really push Lane? And then imagine at the end of this, we get the backstory of Lane, and it is these evils like Evel or Theodore or, Arthur, like all being a part of this group or such. And especially like Ashton and Theodore being one behind it. Like imagine like he figured out a way of using the Requiem Project, but he used that as the first step for it. And since then, he's made a crazier level of machinery to the point where he can make any blader the same level as or above what he did for Red Eye Shu in that Requiem Project. That was just a stepping stone in his scientific knowledge and discovery and such. And he's perfected it at this point. And the first case of him perfecting that being Lane with his first Uranus, because those are all parts we haven't seen before. Who's just going to make up random parts like that, you know? Unless you're some crazy evil scientist like Eval or Arthur, a.k.a. Ashton. Or not Arthur, Theodore, a.k.a. Ashton. Or Arthur being a part of this too with Hell. Him even being a part of it and putting his knowledge in as well. So Theodore, Eval, and Arthur, if those three work together, it would make it where everybody has to look out. They all have their motives. Who would he go after? I mean, Ashton, Theodore, it's a given. Vault, Free, Shoe, being the three at the top of his list. For Eval, Iga. If Phi comes back, go after Phi too. Imagine they reveal that. That'll be wild if like they do have it where Phi comes back with a Phoenix. Please God TT. Please God TT. Like these characters that I said I really want to come back. The top three, I want to see them come back so bad. But imagine it does happen and then he reveals himself to be a part of this group as well. And then even for Drum, who would go after him? Easily Arthur, you know, Drum, Delta, for getting in the way of his plans before if they do have Delta come back. And even if Gwen comes back too, same thing. Gwen treated Arthur like crap at the end of GT when Gwen was corrupted with the power of Big Bang Genesis. Treated him like crap, honestly. It wouldn't be far-fetched if he came back even after Gwen. But that's all these bladers, all these big-time bladers, and all these evils having their motives against every single one of them. The others, they can just be like, you associate with them, therefore you must be destroyed. And then things get crazy on the level where we get another Lucifer. Or if it's like somebody's above Lane, we get that Bay being the ultimate Bay. If it's not Lucifer, which you can imagine it possibly being Lucifer. With this, like I said, like just some crazy names, like somebody said Armageddon Lucifer being a crazy name for sure, or like Demon Lucifer or some crazy Bay like this. That'll be the Bay that'll probably be the world destruction, basically the Diablo nemesis of Burst. The heaviest Bay. The Bay that's set up to be the absolute strongest. The Bay that honestly might be so strong that it might get banned. It might. You know, there's always a case where like there's gimmicks and such that happen in the show that aren't this crazy in real life. But there's also cases where like a Bay is this strong and it might get banned. But, you know, time's gonna tell with it. But I see it being the heaviest Bay in Burst history, man. So this is why things are absolutely devastating. Because if we do get that Bay, when we do get that Bay, they're going to be trying to destroy the whole world. Not just beat up the legends, not just try to get to the top of the legends rank. They're trying to destroy the whole world. And it doesn't matter if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bladers coming at it at once. It's not going to work. Until you get like these bladers like say Hikaru or Hyuga. Maybe their bays are going to get broken during this festival because we haven't seen them get their bays broken. And their protagonists, every protagonist before those two have had their bays get busted, dude, get broken, and then it led to them getting an evolution. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't be far-fetched to see that happen. You know, if we get a new Hyperion or Helios, and one of them is the reason that Lane loses or such. But TT throwing in so many swerves, we don't even know exactly what's going to happen. Obviously, like I said, this is a big speculation video, but also with the whole history of how things have gone with Burst, just how storytelling is, how plot is, how story writing goes for anybody that writes big time story, all these pieces could fit together. And if they do, the way that it's kind of been set up, and if it does go on this level where I've been describing right now, or if it's even crazier, we are hands down here to see the darkest series in Beyblade Burst history. I'm excited for it, but I'm nervous. I know I say that a lot. I'm excited because of all the bladers and bays that we could see come into this, and returning characters or even new characters they bring in, and maybe some characters from the past that we're not expecting to come back being brought back. And like I said, also the new ones. That's where the excitement comes from, because of all the bays, all the parts and such that'll switch up the meta, how the meta will even be at, like, say, the beginning of 2021, after all this craziness with the end of this year. Going into the fall, going into the winter, going into the beginning 2021. How much is going to switch up things with the meta, how awesome it's going to be, but also nervous because of how devastating things are about to get with this series. The bell ringer for it was Ranjiro. We've gotten a break with the season already, and it wasn't even like 20 episodes in? Dude, imagine how much more devastation is going to happen considering the series isn't even halfway through yet. We're not even at 26 episodes, and a series like this is 52 episodes long. We're not even halfway, and we have all this crazy setup. And all the things they could put into it as well, because we're not even halfway through. And how much story they're telling with every single episode. Like I said, I'm excited, but I'm nervous. But yeah, guys. Anyways, with that being said, just gonna end out the video there. You know, obviously 45 minutes and such. I know it was like explaining a lot of things, then getting into the actual story with this of how things get devastating. But it's putting out all of the facts and all of the things that have happened there. So it's not like, where are you getting this from? Where's this idea coming from? You pay attention to all these details and you've seen the entire series, you can see how things have been lined up. And if they do get this devastating, yikes. Big time yikes. But yeah, man. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this speculation video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Maybe possibly even some players that we might not be expecting to come back. The big one for me that would honestly be the biggest shock for me is if they have Norman come back and he comes for Shu. Because just how Shu, when he was Red Eye, broke Nemesis. Yeah, and him being a part of this group. That would be crazy, man. Because it seems like besides Red Eye and Shu, you know, like Red Eye Shu, Norman was the number 2 of the Snake Pit. Like Boa probably being the number 3, but Norman being the number 2 member of the Snake Pit. And imagine he comes back and he's just trying to get revenge on Shu. He would have his motives too. That would be sick, man. But yeah, like I said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. It's going to be devastating, man. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. Hopefully things do pan out this way. If not, TT can just throw whatever swerve they want to, but I see it getting this devastating at the end. Even if it's not like all these events or such happening, time will tell. I really hope it does go down like somewhat similar to this way, but it's going to be nuts, man. Anyways, hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to slice that like button down below. Let me know how I did. If you're new to my channel, definitely be sure to subscribe for some epic content because I upload daily. And if you haven't already, be sure to ring that bell by my channel name to be notified whenever I upload a video. So, yeah, man, it's going to be devastating. We got to see something crazier than everything we've seen thus far. That includes the Requiem Project with Red Eye. That includes Phai's, the Lord of Destruction Rampage with Dead Phoenix. That includes Arthur with his Apocalypse. That includes Gwyn with his Genesis. That obviously includes like Louis from the first season, which wasn't honestly crazy devastating. It was just like man to beat role. But it has to outweigh all of them on a crazy more devastating scale. So it makes me nervous for this. And I feel like TT's going to do so. How exactly? No clue, but we're going to find out. Anyways, till next time, it's your boy Kimbo signing off. See you guys later. Thanks so much for watching. Until then, stay awesome and cool. Shoot. Or let it rip. I'm up out of here. Hopefully we do see a scene like all the bladers around the table, like 1, how it was in Metal Fury, and 2, how it is in the manga, because it's so awesome, dude. But also it can get so devastating to the point where we might see almost everybody, I mean everybody's bays get broken with this. I really hope not, because I hate seeing bays get broken. But if this setup comes to fruition and gets this devastating, it might happen, man. Nobody will be safe.